In 1899, the British Empire arrived in South Africa as the world's undisputed industrial power. They deployed with standardized rifles, their rigid professional hierarchies, and the massive logistics of a global superpower. Standing against them was a civilian militia. These were farmers from the frontier, wearing their everyday work clothes and carrying hunting rifles, organized into decentralized units with no formal military training. To bridge this immense gap in resources, the Boers relied on a cultural philosophy summed up in a single Afrikaans phrase: "A Boer maak a plan," a farmer makes a plan. It describes an ingrained habit of radical resourcefulness. This mindset was a product of isolation. Living on the frontier, far from European supply lines or urban centers, forced families to solve every mechanical, medical, or agricultural problem entirely on their own. This habit of improvisation became the primary tool of their resistance, a continuous process of turning limited resources into specific tactical solutions. At the Battle of Fontaine, British commanders prepared for a standard assault. They positioned their artillery to heavily bombard the Boer positions they assumed were dug into the rocky hills ahead. General Koos de Leray anticipated this. He ordered his men to abandon the high ground and instead dig deep, concealed trenches on the flat, grassy plains at the very base of the hill. This photograph shows the result, a trench line cutting through the flat ground. Because the artillery fired at the hill itself, the Boer defense remained untouched. The British infantry advanced, only to realize they were caught in a point-blank trap. The Boers applied this same hacker mindset to their heaviest equipment. The South African Republic had purchased 4 massive 155mm French Creusot siege guns, known as Long Toms. These guns were 6,500-kilogram monsters, engineered to be bolted into the concrete foundations of a fortress, a liability for highly mobile commandos. Boer engineers solved this by dismantling the guns and strapping the massive barrels to ox wagons, turning static fortress pieces into mobile field artillery. Moving these weapons across the interior was an immense feat of engineering, with teams of oxen straining to pull the massive iron barrels through river currents and over mountain passes. Their improvised field repairs were equally aggressive. When a British shell blew the muzzle off a howitzer, Boer mechanics hauled it to a railway workshop, sawed off the broken end of the barrel, and put the shortened gun back into the fight. The commandos maintained their presence in the field by constantly hacking the equipment they had for a highly mobile combat. This ingenuity was a basic requirement for life on the frontier, where the environment demanded continuous adaptation for even the most basic needs. To solve the problem of carrying food across vast distances without refrigeration, they developed biltong, a spiced, air-dried meat that was lightweight and could stay edible for months. For cooking, they relied on the traditional podgie, a heavy cast-iron pot designed to sit directly over an open fire. By layering ingredients in a specific order and leaving the pot unstirred, they created a system that produced a meal while the farmers focused on other work. Even cultural traditions were modified for life on the move. Migrating by ox wagon across the interior made traditional European musical instruments impractical. They adopted the concertina because it was compact and durable. It could be stored in a small chest or played while riding a horse, allowing them to keep their social dances alive during the trek. When the musician Fanny Bosch lost parts of 2 fingers, he simply improvised a new playing style and composed the Sore Finger Waltz, turning a physical setback into a new musical piece. The make a plan ethos was a total philosophy, a mechanism for preserving food, for repairing their weapons, and finding entertainment in difficult circumstances. That cultural instinct to solve problems from the bottom up remains highly active in modern South Africa. In the agricultural sector, mentorship networks like Grain SA have institutionalized this sharing of expertise. Established commercial farmers now run programs to transfer their knowledge of dryland farming to new producers. This often involves sharing physical assets. It is common for commercial farmers to lend expensive tractors, equipment, and land to their neighbors to ensure the entire local community remains productive. Beyond the farm, this mindset has evolved into a movement called state-proofing. Instead of waiting for central assistance, communities are building parallel systems, operating independent schools, security, and private utilities. These self-funded nodes create a resilient ecosystem. By routing resources directly to one another, they protect the community from the failure of the central grid. Ingenuity isn't always about high-tech breakthroughs or deep pockets. It's the ability to look at a lack of options and decide simply to make a plan.